Porsche just made the kind of announcement that sounds like company news until you realize what it says about electric cars. This was supposed to be one of the safest brands in the move from gas cars to electric cars. Porsche had rich buyers, high prices, famous engineers, and the kind of badge people already pay extra for. But now Porsche is cutting thousands of jobs, changing parts of its plan, and still trying to sell expensive electric cars at the same time. So why did EVs get so expensive? And what does Porsche's problem reveal about the price of your next car? Porsche is the wrong company to ignore. A weak car brand can cut jobs and people will assume it was already in trouble. Porsche is different. It sells fewer cars than Toyota, Volkswagen or Hyundai, but it built one of the strongest businesses in the car world because its buyers were willing to pay more for the badge, the speed, and the way the cars feel. That gave Porsche room other brands did not have. If batteries were expensive, Porsche could place them inside a car that already cost a lot. If new software was costly, Porsche could hide part of that cost inside a premium price. If the first electric models were harder to make money on, Porsche had customers who were already used to paying more. So when the industry started moving from gas to electric, Porsche looked protected. Then the numbers turned ugly. Porsche's operating profit fell from more than 5.6 billion euros in 2024 to 413 million euros in 2025. Its return on sales dropped to 1.1%. The automotive business was hit even harder, with operating profit falling to 90 million euros. Then came the announcement. Porsche agreed to cut another 5,000 jobs by 2035, mostly through retirements, age-related changes, and voluntary deals. Added to earlier cuts, Reuters said the total planned job losses would reach around 9,000. At the same time, Porsche said it would invest 2.1 billion euros into its main factory in Zuffenhausen and its research center in Weissach. Porsche called the deal a future package. The language sounds calm, but the goal is clear: lower staff costs, make the factories more flexible, and raise output from the people and sites that remain. When a company with Porsche's pricing power needs a package like that, the problem is bigger than one slow model year, so the company is cutting deeply while still spending heavily. That combination is the whole story. Porsche is trying to become leaner because the old plan became too expensive, but it cannot stop spending because the future still needs factories, engineers, software, batteries, and new models. The job cuts are the painful part people notice first. The harder part is what they reveal about the bill behind electric cars. And that bill started long before this announcement. The first electric Porsche made the future look possible. The Taycan was not treated like a small test car. It was Porsche telling the market that an old sports car brand could build an EV without making the badge feel weak. It was fast, expensive, serious, and different from the early electric cars that felt like side projects. For a while, the plan looked smart. Tesla had made old car companies look slow, and Porsche seemed like one of the few legacy brands that could answer with something people respected. The Taycan gave Porsche a way to say that electric driving could still feel special, still feel fast, and still carry a premium price. The problem came after the first wave of excitement. EV buyers began comparing cars in a colder way. A gas Porsche can lean on engine sound, road feel, and decades of history. An electric Porsche still has the badge, but it also has to win on range, charging speed, software, screens, battery life, and price. Those are easier to compare. A buyer does not need to care about old race wins to ask why one EV goes farther than another. They do not need to understand Porsche history to notice weaker software. They do not need to love a badge when a rival offers more technology for less money. China made that problem worse. For years, China was one of the places where premium foreign brands could grow. Wealthy buyers wanted European names. Big cities had demand for luxury cars. Porsche had a market where high prices made sense. Then local Chinese brands got better quickly. They pushed harder on screens, software, fast charging, driver assistance features, and price. Younger buyers became more willing to judge cars like tech products. The badge still mattered, but it carried less weight when the spec sheet looked weak. Reuters described Porsche's once lucrative China market as collapsed and said its EV strategy had stalled. For a company that once looked almost built for the EV shift, that sentence is brutal. And China was only one side of the pressure. Building EVs costs more than putting a battery where the engine used to be. A legacy automaker has to pay for new platforms, battery packs, heat systems, software teams, safety testing, repair training, supplier contracts, factory tools, and charging technology. A gas car factory cannot become an EV factory overnight. Workers need new skills, dealers need new tools, engineers have to solve problems they did not face in the same way before. The old business keeps running while all of this happens. Porsche still has customers who want gas cars. It still has hybrid buyers. It still has people who want a 911 to feel like a 911. Those cars need parts, engineers, factories, updates, and marketing too. For years, many automakers had to pay for two worlds at once. The gas world was still making money. The electric world was supposed to be the future, but it needed huge spending before the payoff was clear. Every electric model had to carry a piece of that cost. This helps explain why so many EVs started at the top of the market. A luxury electric SUV can carry a big battery, strong motors, better seats, more screens, and a high price. The high price gives the company space to cover the cost. A cheap EV gives the company almost no room for mistakes. If the battery costs too much, profit disappears. If the software arrives late, the cost rises. If demand is weaker than expected, discounts eat the margin. So companies built the EVs that were easiest to justify first. Big EVs, premium EVs, long-range EVs, high-trim EVs, cars that could make the electric future look exciting while still giving automakers a chance to make money. For buyers, that created a strange problem. They kept hearing that electric cars were the future, but many of the cars in front of them were priced like luxury items. In June 2026, Kelley Blue Book said the average price paid for a new EV in the United States was $56,238. The average new vehicle overall was $49,758. Even discounts are doing a lot of work. Kelley Blue Book said EV incentives in June were 13% of the average price paid, well above the industry average of 7%. In plain English, automakers were already using bigger discounts to move EVs, and the average price was still above $56,000. Those numbers explain why the cheaper electric future still feels late. Porsche's new electric models show both sides of the problem. The company is still expanding its electric lineup. The new Cayenne S Electric is a serious machine. Porsche says it has up to 653 kilometers of WLTP range, a large 113 kilowatt-hour battery, and the ability to charge from 10 to 80% in less than 16 minutes at the right fast charger. Those numbers are impressive. They also show why the affordable EV is so hard. A large battery costs money. Fast charging hardware costs money. High-power motors cost money. The cooling system, the software, the testing, and the factory work all add more cost before the car ever reaches a buyer. Porsche can put those costs into a high-end SUV because that is where its brand lives. Normal buyers do not live there. A family looking for a practical EV does not need a Porsche badge. They need a price that makes sense, a payment they can handle, enough range for real life, and charging that does not turn every road trip into a project. The industry has struggled to give those buyers enough choices. Some cheaper EVs exist, but the market still feels thin compared with all the expensive models, large SUVs, luxury trims, and high-performance versions that arrived first. Automakers kept saying prices would come down with scale, but scale takes time, and the cost of the transition kept growing while buyers waited. Porsche's cuts reveal what happens when that wait gets expensive. A company can build impressive EVs and still need to shrink parts of the business. A company can launch faster charging and still cut jobs. A company can invest in its future and still admit that its cost base has become too heavy. The electric car itself may be strong. The business behind it can still be under strain. Buyers eventually feel the strain behind the business. When car companies come under pressure, the pain does not stay inside the company. It moves. Sometimes it moves into job cuts. Sometimes it moves into delayed models. Sometimes it moves into fewer low-price choices. Sometimes it moves into higher trim levels, because companies would rather sell a loaded vehicle than a cheaper one with weaker profit. This is why the EV market can feel so frustrating. Gas cars are still expensive. EVs are still expensive. Hybrids are suddenly popular again because they feel safer for people who want lower fuel use without depending fully on charging. Buyers keep hearing that cheaper EVs are coming, but many still end up choosing between a costly electric car, a familiar gas car, or waiting another year. Porsche is not responsible for the whole market. It just makes the pattern easier to see. The brand had advantages that should have helped it handle the shift: high prices, loyal buyers, strong image, a history of selling emotion as much as transportation. If a company with that much room still has to cut costs this deeply, then ordinary brands face an even harder version of the same problem. They have less room to charge more, they have more price-sensitive buyers, they have to sell bigger volumes. They also have to deal with Chinese rivals that can push price and technology faster than many older companies expected. Your next car may never come from Porsche, but its price can still be shaped by the same forces: battery cost, software cost, factory cost, charging needs, China pressure, trade rules, weak demand in some markets, and car companies trying to protect profit while they rebuild themselves. The sticker price is not only paying for the car, it is helping pay for the change behind the car. China is the part of the story that keeps the pressure from fading. Chinese automakers have spent years fighting in one of the most crowded EV markets in the world. That fight trained them to move fast, cut prices, add technology, and make buyers expect more for less. A buyer who has seen cheaper cars with big screens, strong software, fast charging, and good range starts asking harder questions of every expensive brand. Why does this cost so much? Why is this feature extra? Why does this older brand feel behind? Those questions are dangerous for companies that spent years relying on reputation. Porsche can still sell desire. Many buyers still want the badge, the shape, and the driving feel. But the EV market forces even a dream brand to answer practical questions. Range matters, charging matters, software matters, price matters. A famous name still helps. It no longer ends the debate. That change affects more than luxury buyers. Once Chinese brands push price and features in one part of the world, other automakers have to respond somewhere. Maybe they cut prices, maybe they improve standard equipment, maybe they slow EV plans and focus on hybrids. Maybe they ask governments for protection from low-cost competition. Every response affects buyers. A tariff may protect jobs, but it can also keep cheaper cars away. A delayed EV may protect a company's profit, but it leaves buyers waiting. A premium-first strategy may help an automaker survive, but it keeps normal people priced out longer. The promise of cheap EVs depends on which side wins: the pressure to lower prices or the need to protect the companies building them.